Hello and welcome to Rediscovering You. Today, I am beyond excited to have one of my most favorite musicians and also humans in general to the show. Her name is Karina Rykman, and if you have not heard of this fabulous woman, you need to go check her out immediately. She is one of the most amazing bassists on this planet. Yes, that's true. And also a powerhouse presence on stage. And she is just so much fun to be around, to talk to listen to, and hear her music and to just be around. And so, Karina Reichman, I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks, Laura. That's a hell of an intro, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. This is wonderful.
Dude, I could have gone on forever and ever talking about how fabulous you are, but in the spirit of not wasting everybody's time, I'll just get right into it. So, what inspired me to invite you on the show today is just I've seen your success has been just blowing up so much in recent months and years. And when I first heard about you, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and saw you for the first time, and I think it was Portsmouth, New Hampshire, with Marco Benevento, and then ever since then, you've just been your presence has been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm just so happy for you. And so I wanted to talk to you about your musical career, from where you started and kind of how you ended up being this huge powerhouse presence that you are right now. When did you first start playing music?
I first started playing music maybe like around fifth grade, just dabbling on the piano, and I had, kind of I've done everything in a very unorthodox way, which will become very clear when we talk about all this. But I was dabbling on the piano, and at school there was a guy like our music teacher who I would be like, hey Victor, like, can you show me "Whip It" by Devo?
Hmm.
And he'd be like, yeah. And then I was like, can you show me "Hit the Road Jack" by Ray Charles? And he'd be like, yeah. And it was and then I got into it, and I like, my dad even like sort of knew a few things and whatever, and then actually, then this is very indicative of how things progressed for me. But then, it was like, oh, piano teacher, let's get her a piano teacher, right? And I had one lesson with this very by the books, crotchety gentleman, and I was like, no, thank you, I'm good. Like
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
completely out, And then from fifth grade until eighth grade, I mean, I think I maybe dabbled on the piano by myself, but I was like, I'm good on that whole, whatever that was not fun at all. That's a
Hmm.
disaster. And I like music, music's cool, right? But then, throughout those middle school years, I was super into music, and I was like, I remember those are the famous years where I got in big trouble of like, because, I was only, this is the iTunes era, and I was only allowed to buy up until a certain, like 5 songs on iTunes a month, which by the way is like $5. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
And whatever. But there was one year with me and my boy Benny Tuckman. We just, we kind of went rogue, and I got the Rolling Stone 500 Greatest Albums of All Time book
Mhm.
for my birthday, and I was like, well, I have to be a savant about all of this, obviously. So we
Obviously, yes.
one by one by one, and we bought every single album, and I ran up a huge bill on my parents' credit card.
That's a lot of money.
And it was not cool at all. But I was just like, you know what? This is ridiculous. And anyway, I got in trouble, and they were like, cool, well, that's your birthday present. I was like, best birthday present ever, thanks. And they were pissed, but it was fine, and it was all good. But anyway, I didn't play again until eighth grade, where Bobby, my dear friend, put an acoustic guitar in my lap during recess and taught me Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. And then I was just like, wait, 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 wait. And that was the first time I'd like touched a guitar. Like, I mean, maybe I had like, I don't know, but that was the first like actual fingers to the frets moment of my life, right? And
And you
I'm
were able to play a song first time holding a guitar. You learned it.
well, sure. And he's like, you go here, here, here,
Yeah.
here, and here. And I was just like, what? You're joking. This is what it takes to do that? Like, and then from that moment on, quite literally, it was blinders for the rest of the world. That's all I cared about. And I've never had a lesson, but like it just became like, 2 weeks later, I was in a punk band. I was like, me and the aforementioned Bobby, we started a band called False Arrest. And, we like, I got an electric guitar from my uncle for my 13th birthday.
Hmm.
And And the famous story is they wanted to sell us a gig bag, and my mom was like, gig bag, what is this, going out of the house? And I was like, well, I hope so. you know and lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I was very much going down to 36th Street for rehearsal at Smash Studios with my little punk band, and we swindled every promoter in New York City into letting us play, and over exaggerating our draw and saying, of course we can bring 60 people out on a Tuesday. Very false for 13-year-old kids. Like, that's not true.
But this is like you at that such a young age, you already knew how to dream big. You already knew how to like step outside of your comfort zone and just be this bigger presence and step into that because like that's who you knew you were. That's who you wanted to be so badly that you just manifested it into reality.
Sure, and I will say that like I was very Bobby, this character who really taught me how to play. He was a larger than life figure in my
Okay.
life, and he was the one, like, at first, like in 8th grade, he was just like, yeah, I'm sending emails. We got to play. That's, what would Motley Crue have done? And I'm like, I don't know, probably not send an email, but respect. I like the cut of your jib. He was definitely a very bold, larger than life figure. Like, he was also like, we were in 8th grade, and like he had like this, like, he looked like he was super cute. Like, all the 5th grade girls would like follow him around, and like he would like throw out a piece of gum and they would go get it and then sell it to each other. It was like a whole thing. So Bobby had all this confidence, and I was just like, all right, nice, Bob. It's like, that's and he was just my friend, but I was just like, damn, like, maybe some of that rubbed off on me.
I guess I was gonna say, did you have that confidence too? Or like when you started out, or were you kind of riding his coattails in the beginning?
I mean, I think in the beginning it was really like he was showing me, like, he was quite literally teaching me how to play and showing me the
Yeah.
parts and being like, no, we're doing this. It's going like, and I was like, yeah, all right. Like, wow, and he was a go-getter at the time, and it maybe rubbed off on me, but in like a slow burn kind of way. But then, yeah, from 9th grade, because that was all 8th grade, right? So that's still middle
Yeah.
school. But then come 9th grade, it just my world kind of exploded. Like that, like I didn't, and kind of still don't, maybe to a fault. Like, if you're not into music or play music, I don't know you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
not for lack of, whatever, but like, I love all types, but that was just my community. That was my thing. And if I wasn't playing live music, I was going to see it. And I
Hmm.
had a very large, posse of pals who, both like my jam band friends and my heavy metal friends and my, whatever, and like people who were genre fluid as I was and wanted to see all sorts of stuff and wanted to play all sorts of stuff. And I like to say, 5 bands going nowhere, which is true. Like, I was in a million bands that just, to play. And, cause that's what we did. You know what I mean? That was our language, and still was. And like, that's the thing, like, I had no formal lessons, but what we did was be like, they'd come over to my house, or we'd go to Josh's house or whatever, and just be like sitting around and like, I just learned this Warren Haynes lick, like, and then I'd be like, oh, teach me that, like, show me
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
and it was like our language was the shared language of music. So you just
Hmm.
learned by osmosis. And I think at that point, I made a lot of older friends too, and I had amazing mentors from like various I don't know. I was definitely at that point like kind of fearless in a way, in terms of like I knew I wasn't that good, or I knew I had something. I had something going on, but it wasn't necessarily. I wasn't the most technically proficient of my friends or whatever. But I could play with all these people who had so much more experience and years on me and whatever, and I was not afraid to learn from them, if that makes sense. Like, I was just like, it was like a sink or swim sort of vibe, and I was like, yeah, of course, like, I'd love to jam with you, or whatever.
Well, because I think some people might be intimidated put in those situations. Like as you said, I don't have professional training. You're older than me, you have more experience than me, but it sounds like you just either didn't have fear or you chose to ignore the fear or push it aside. Let me ask you, did you have fear?
I'm sure I did. Absolutely. Like, and I feel like I've had so many moments in my life in which I've had to rise to an occasion
Hmm.
that seems, yeah, and like, and I do, and I've had horrible nerves going into these things and being like, holy shit, like, this is really intense and like this is a big deal to me or to people or to what you know what I mean, like whatever, be it a gig or a stepping into something like that you
Yeah.
feel just like overwhelmed by, but always, oh, and it gets easier, or at least it did for me.
Mm-hmm.
The more you learn the feeling of just like, I'm nervous because I have a thing that matters to me that I have to
Yeah.
do. You know what I mean? Okay, let's be nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
over prepare, always. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So we feel extraordinarily comfortable.
Yes.
And then we get through it, and everybody says yay, and you say yay, and then you do it over and over and over and over again to the
Mm-hmm.
point where you start to kind of learn how to live with those feelings, you know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
like, yeah, and you realize that if, it's amazing that you feel that way because you have something that you care about to the point of wanting to do a great job. You know
That's
what
a
I mean?
beautiful way to frame that. Yes, that you have something that you care about so much, so you almost are thankful for having that feeling, and instead of running from it or trying to mask it, you almost embrace it like it's a superpower in some way that you are able to do that.
You have to. Yeah, absolutely. And I learned over many years and I still, like, trust me, like there are times where I'll have a big gig that I'm like like really want to over deliver on, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
something like this is a big opportunity, is a big look, like whatever it is, like we just want to crush, and it can be wildly nerve-wracking, but like, it's just it's that same practice of you just tell yourself like, come on,
Hmm.
we've done this before, we'll do it again, even if the stakes get higher and whatever, like, like I don't know, it's still that same feeling of being, a 16-year-old kid trying to keep up and do good and like, you know, uh
Have you ever had an experience where you felt like you were really prepared for a performance or whatever it was that you were doing, and then for whatever reason it bombs, and then you needed to kind of grapple with, oh shit, like that didn't go the way I planned. Has that ever happened for you?
sure, absolutely, and that is a terrible feeling.
Yeah. How do you like
And
work
whatever.
through that? Like how do you get beyond that and keep going?
I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, it depends. It depends on. I mean, I've had plenty of and there's the element of technical difficulties.
True.
Stuff that's
Hmm.
out of your control and
Hmm.
various things that are disappointing or whatever it might be. Where you're like, man, like I really, I wish we had done better here. Or I wish this had gone. Whatever. I'm for better for worse. I think it's for better. I'm like always it like present or future, very like the whole past thing. And that's like my, sometimes I'd be on stage early on, way early on with my band before we even had a song to our names, but we would do like these improv gigs, and then we get off stage, and then um sometimes my bandmates would like berate themselves a little bit, be like, man, I'm so sorry, like I screwed that up, like that wasn't I'm sorry, I played like shit tonight, like whatever. And I would always just be like, no, 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 you fucking killed it. We're already, my head was 10 steps ahead to the
Yeah.
next, you know what I mean? So like, and music and performance in that way, like, and like what I do is so of the moment, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you have this hour, this 90 minutes, this whatever it is to do your thing, and then it's done. And then the next thing is the next thing. So I feel like that suits my personality a lot
And
in the sense of just like we come,
mhm.
we do it. It is exactly what it is, and that means something different to me than it does to the audience, and something different for my drummer than it is to you know what I mean? Everybody has a different perception of what happens up there, right?
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of it in a lot of ways, right? So like, I don't know, my favorite performance isn't going to be your favorite performance of me, because maybe I was having a thing that was so positive and overly inflated because I was so thrilled that my mom was there, or like whatever, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? I was so happy, but like, I probably missed a ton of notes and whatever. And I don't know, I just feel like I get through these things by thinking to the future and thinking ahead and not dwelling on, doing my best to not dwell and not.
That is excellent, excellent, excellent advice. I think for anybody, whether it's music or anything, is that you are robbing yourself of so much joy if you focus on the past and like are nitpicking things, be present and be future oriented. And one thing I love about seeing you perform wherever you are, because I've had, the extreme luck of seeing you in very small venues and in very big venues. And you bring the exact same energy, at least from my perspective, every time. You are fully present, you are having a blast, you are just in your element, and the energy that you project is just so contagious because you have this ability to be so fully solidly in the present that not a lot of musicians see in the same way, at least from my experience, that you embody so much.
Thank you, Laura. That's so kind of you. That's awesome. I mean, like for like I don't know, the gigs, that's when I feel the most present in my life because it is literally, you think about music, it's just, you're decorating time, right? So like again, like when you have the job of decorating a certain amount of time, be it an hour, 3 hours with a set break, whatever, like, live music has this ability to be so transporting, not only for the audience, right? Which I've had the great pleasure of that live music is what has done it for me on
Yes.
the other side of things. Always. This is the answer for like, so I understand it on that side of things. I'm just a big fan of the art form, and now I get to provide those experiences for people. But in doing it, I'm having the best time myself, and it's an amazing thing. It's one of those art forms that you just can't, I don't know. That's why AI will never take it away because you can't
Thank
duplicate it. Like it's
God, seriously, thank goodness. Yes, we need actual musicians in this world. When you first started playing, okay, like you were in middle school, high school, you started doing some gigs, you're playing around. Did you, in your mind at that point, start to think, like, you know what? I want to play ginormous festivals. I want to headline my own tour. Like, are you thinking big at like that big at this point, or where do you think your mentality was in the beginning?
I'll tell you exactly because I think that, this all leads into like why I'm so overly stoked that this is my life is because I never, ever, ever dreamed that this could be my life ever. Like in high school, in 10th grade, I got my first internship at a management company, Vector Management, that did, music management, whatever. That was that summer, right? And then the following summer, I interned at Relics Magazine. And that's the summer between 11th and 12th grade. And then for the summer between 12th grade at NYU, I was playing in a band that played on a boat that went around Manhattan for 3 hours, which was famous to me. It was the Rocks Off concert cruise series.
Hmm.
And this guy who ran Rocks Off was sort of infamous in the New York City, promoter scene, and it's a guy named Jake Sefnerowski. And at the end of that cruise, this is again the summer between 12th grade and NYU, I went up to him and I was just like, hey, I love what you do. I love your company. If you ever need an intern, I'm your gal. I'm about to start up at NYU in the fall. He was just like, you start tomorrow. And, um, and so I literally, that became the next 7.5 years of my life. So I worked as a promoter and did, all this other stuff, in the music business
Hmm.
for 7.5 years, all throughout NYU and all throughout my early years with Marco Benevento, which we can talk about. But I, I never thought that I would be given the opportunity to be a professional musician. I didn't think that there just wasn't a clear path forward for me to
Hmm.
do it.
Hmm.
Again, 5 bands going nowhere, a random this and a random that. I enjoyed it more than anything. You know what I mean? Like when I
Yeah.
did get to play, it was the thing that's what we did. It's like, again, we went to my friends' houses and jammed and jammed and jammed and what, like, and saw so much live music. And of course, I worked behind the scenes at a concert promoter in New York
Wow.
City
Hmm.
where I was booking the bands, paying the bands, staffing the concerts, doing this, doing that, meeting every agent and every manager and doing this whole other thing. But at that point, there wasn't, I think I was very, almost to a fault, and I've had to undo a bunch of that, just realistic, it's more just like, okay, like this is what, like, I thought after Rocks Off, quote unquote, I would work for Live Nation or work for Barry
Hmm.
Presents or do, be an agent or a manager or whatever. Like I wanted to do whatever got me as close to music as possible, for sure,
Hmm. Hmm.
and work in any capacity in it. But the pipe dream would be to be a performer. Are you kidding me? Like, it's just like not even like, that's ridiculous. And that's why when I started playing with Marco Benevento the senior year of NYU, that changed everything for me because I got attention or whatever
Hmm.
as a an instrumentalist, you
Hmm.
know? And it was just like, well, this girl just took over from Dave from Ween in Marco Benevento's band. She's 21 years old. Like, you know, what it was like
Incredible.
a whole thing, you know? And then it was the beginning of the rest of my life in a lot of ways, even though of course I had this big stint working in the music business, but I had
Right.
been playing that entire time and I had landed cool high profile gigs and done shit that was like, wow, okay, wow, like interesting. But all the meantime, dude, you have no, I was working as a videographer, I was working as a photographer, like, you know, for musicians and
Right.
whatever, and doing stuff like, you know, all again, anything that got me closer to the music, it did not matter. Like whatever it was, I wanted to be all up in it. And then once the Marco thing came to be and I started touring the world, I still held on to that job at Rocksoft. It started for me with Marco in 2016,
Okay.
and I still had my music business job till the pandemic. And then
Wow.
it was then, and then you know, I, I mean, they say don't quit your day job till your night job starts paying, but my night job had been paying, but I
Hmm.
still just held on to it because I loved it and I wanted to do the most. And I don't know. I feel like I have just kind of the personality to be like wear a bunch of hats and juggle this and juggle that. And
You
I don't know.
really do. Yeah,
I have a
you
ton
that
of
is a
energy. You know? Like,
like it's like a gift that you have because you do wear so many different hats and you do everything so well. It's just like wow.
thanks,
Um,
Laura.
at what point though did you like start to like have an identity shift within yourself where you're like, I'm Karina Rykman, the performer, and that took front and center?
Around the Marco Benevento time, you
Okay.
know, like it became kind of it. I mean, it brought attention to me in that other way that I had never had, you know,
Hmm.
even
Hmm.
if, you know, in my other bands I'd get photographed looking all rock and roll on stage doing whatever, you know, but it was different with Marco because Marco, you know, we and around those times we really toured a lot.
Yeah. Hmm.
And we played real festivals and opened for a we opened for Wolfpack in London and the Claypool Lennon Delirium and like, you know, all these people I would consider my heroes, you know, and I'm very
Hey.
young and just like, holy shit, like we're really doing this. This is sick, you know, and then of course like I would keep working at Rocksoft and like, you know, be checking people off the will call list and people would be like, "Hey, you're Karina Reckman." And I'd be like, "Yeah, hi," you know, and it was
Yeah.
just like sort of a funny just like watching that kind of transition or whatever. And then of course like you know, the everything changed or whatever when I started writing my own music.
And
And
when was
that,
that?
well, too late, not too late, but like again, if I had had a little, I don't know, if I had maybe had more of that Bobby eighth grade confidence as
Hmm.
a 22-year-old, that would have been good because I wouldn't have waited till I was 25 to release my first song, you know?
Hmm.
I had, I have definitely, a bit of a fear or just like a overwhelming desire for everyone to like me, which is not,
Hmm.
it's not helpful when you want
Right.
to write music or anything, you know? If you want to put your name on something, like music or whatever the fuck, like there's going to be people who love it and people who despise it, and it's
Okay.
polarizing. And
Yes.
that's like for me personally, I have such wide ears in terms
Mhm.
of the music I like. So I like super fucking heavy metal and like the you know, softest singer-songwriters and pop music and jazz and like, so I don't know, for me, I feel like music is the least divisive thing.
Right, right.
But it's not that way for everybody, you know? So I don't know. I kind of wanted to tell myself to just shut the fuck up and like stop. Just you have to put stuff out. You have to not be afraid of the judgment that comes with it, you know?
Mhm.
I don't know. It eventually I told myself to just like let's just go. And of course, I had no rhyme or reason. No, it was just for the love of it, you know. And my
Yeah.
first song is Plants, which is a 5 minute long instrumental. I don't
Love
know what I thought I was gonna garner, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, great. Like, here's your psychedelic 5 minute long instrumental,
it.
America.
Yeah.
Um, but that ended up getting a lot of like it, you know, it's my most streamed song, and
Mhm.
it kind of took off unannounced on Spotify and all that stuff. Uh, and even again, like before I had one song to my name, my band, who had just been like, again, the three of us were just improvising
Mhm.
around New York City and playing gigs as an all improv trio.
Mhm.
That because I guess of my I was semi-known, you know, as an instrumentalist with Marco. People
Mhm.
were coming, and we were selling out shows, and things were, and I was like, "Whoa, this is awesome! I think we need songs, you know."
Yeah, like you can't, that's a hard thing to do when you're just doing improv. So that just
Very,
so much
very.
about the name that you've begun to create for yourself at that point in time that you were able to do that.
It was pretty shocking, you know. And then I was like, guys, I think we need songs. So every, you know, there's a debate over like when did the band start? You know what I mean? Does the band start with the first song written, or does the band
Good
start with the
question.
first jam
What do
with
you
your
think?
buddies? I think without the songs, we're just three guys jamming together, you know,
Yeah.
and which is
Mhm.
which, but by the way, but I don't discount those years for a second. Like,
Right.
I know that sounded flippant, but it isn't. Like, those years are so formative, and
Mhm.
you know, we hold those years in very high regard. But I say 2019 is when Plants came out and Elevator came out, and like those are the first two singles, and that's when things changed. That's when I had no manager, no agent, no nothing. It was just me. And we got, you know, I was opening for Krungbin and Guster and playing Modown and Halloween and all these, like, you know,
Like really
for
big
what
thing.
I do, for
Yes,
what I like in my world, I would call them high profile ish event, you
they
know, and
are.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, guys, like, yeah, all right, you know, and then of course, bam, pandemic right after that, you know what I mean? So that kind of it's complicated in that regard.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, you have to, I call it carrying the pandemic too. You know, it's like, yeah, we've been a band for 6 years, but you have to carry the pandemic too on. It's like what? So it's really like 4 years or whatever. But then in 2020, somehow recorded and released two singles again, you know. So it was like
It's
two
the fact
singles a
that you
year.
did that in the middle of a pandemic, again, like speaks to
Shocking.
you and just like when you have something in your head of like, I want something, I'm gonna do it, you just figure it out and you do it.
Yeah, and we did, you know, and it was all, everything was delayed, and I remember being upset because, you know, we had City Kids and Dirty South to record in March, and literally the session was the week, you know, of the shutdown, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, you know, and everybody's like, Karina, it's not about you right now. I was like, right, totally.
Yeah.
But, and
Yeah.
then you have to readjust and be like, yeah, bitch, stop. Like, what?
Right.
It's not about you right now. We're all dying. It's a terrible time to be alive. So anyway, you know, but then pushed that to August and did one of these, like, you know, sessions with masks on and whatever in a studio that was all like kind of crazy. And
So weird to
yeah,
think about.
and I was two singles a year, you know, 2019, 2020, 2021. But then we held the floodgates off, and that's when, you know, I was starting to cull together enough tunes for a record, which seemed insane. And then, I mean, we don't have to get all into the history of all of it, but, you know, I was six singles Rykman, those, you know, and then held off and made this record. Basically, my record was done by May of 2022, but my record didn't come
Oh,
out
wow.
until August of 2023.
Why do you
Um,
think the delay?
I had a management shift. I fired my first managers and hired new ones, and it was all, so that was kind of a crazy element
Yeah.
of it. And it was just like the process of like who's going to put this out and how, and the rollout and the this and the that. Like, I don't know. There was just a lot at play. It's
Yeah.
not a simple process. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess it can be, but I was like, no, I have something special here that I really care about, and we're not going to shortchange it, and we're going to do it with all the promo, and all the way
Mhm.
it looks was very important to me, and the way the promo looked was very important, and like the music videos were very important to me. Everything needed to be
Everything.
as it was, you know what I mean? And I was like, we're not shortchanging this because you only get your first record once, and we're
Right.
we're doing it. So, do I wish that that record came out, in August of 2022 and not August of 2023? Yeah, like that would have been great for whatever reason. But I am also totally thrilled with how it all came to be, and it all came to be because of all the aforementioned, and that means
Sure.
that we
Yes.
had an incredible vision, that we executed over time with the right team and the right people that I wanted to work with, and everything just kind of fell into place.
So since your debut album has been released, what has your career turned into since then?
I mean, uh, it's been insane. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like to me, like all of this is insane. I think because when they say if you don't have expectations, you can't be disappointed.
Mhm.
I think that's accurate for me. And I think that's accurate and very kind of indicative of my whole career in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
because like we just traced back through everything, the fact that I get to do, look, I'm standing in front of you with an amp that has my name on it 7 times. Like that is crazy to me. Like the being a performer or a musical, being that on that side of things is so far-fetched to me. Like the idea that this could be, and I get paid to do it, it's insane.
Mhm.
Every time I walk off stage, I think to myself, like, dude, they're paying me to do this? Do they know how much I would pay to be given the opportunity to do this? And I feel
Mhm.
that way, which is, again, for better for worse, but I think it's for better because
Me too.
it's just I'm just so grateful for all of it. And so I don't know, for me, the idea that I get to tour the country
Mhm.
and the marquees say my name and I get to just be on, that's the other thing about like this, my band and my music. It's just it's genuine.
Yeah.
It's just
And
me,
it shows. It really
Yeah.
does. Like you are totally in your element. You're never, at least, from the audience perspective, it doesn't seem like you're ever trying to be anyone but exactly who you are. You're not trying to emulate or copy other styles. You're just like unapologetically yourself. And that is what is so engaging about you and with the audience because like it's like you can't describe it unless you've seen Karina perform. Like you really, if you're listening, you're like, I haven't seen Karina. Who is this person? Watch her, check it out. It's just you cannot put into words, and you see just like the joy of somebody doing something that they love and that they know that they are meant to do. And now that you've been able to monetize that and make this your career, like you've hit the jackpot. But I don't want to say you hit the jackpot because you worked your ass off to get where you are, and you're continuing to work your ass off to keep getting all the things, all so much more. And I'm just, it's so cool to watch that evolve for you.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you. It's funny because some of it feels like work and most of it doesn't. That's a weird element of it too. Like the writing is hard for me because it's hard for me to sit still, and among the writing is hard because I think it harkens back to that original, like you're putting your name on something that will
Yeah.
long outlive you and that is ripe for the judgment of everyone, right? And
Hmm.
that's sort of still a hard thing for me, even though I'm in a real groove with it. That's
Hmm.
what I'm doing with myself for the next 2 months. Like I'm good and I'm proud of I'd be like, I write a new song and I'm like, yes, like that. This one I'm proud to call a Karina song. This one maybe we put in the maybe pile. You know what I mean? But
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
process, and it's a hard thing. And I think some people probably have a much easier time with that than others. But let's think about where I come from. I'm a live instrumentalist,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
okay, as a live instrumentalist, what is that like that? Like it harkens back to those things of me being really into the fleeting moment. You know what I mean? Me being like, okay, we're all together for this 90 minutes. Let's create something magical and
Yep.
it'll never be recreated, right? And then be it the room, the audience,
Everything.
how I
Hmm.
am, the musicians on stage. It's even if which we don't, but like even if you were playing the same show every night, it still isn't the same. It's
No,
not
the energy can't be
reproducible.
replicated. Yeah.
It cannot. These are special moments amongst room people. both on stage and off stage and whatever. So, that part of it for me doesn't like, and I love travel. That's the other thing. Like people are like, "Oh, you've been on the road so long." I'm like, "Yeah, I love it." Again, the opportunity and I love airports. I love Delta. I love the Delta lounge. Like and of course we make it because we travel so much, we rack
Yeah,
up the points and it's like whatever. And now it's just like a delightful experience. We
I'm
get free
sure.
bags and a little of this and we go and we eat for free and, like all those
Yeah.
things. But again, like it's to me, it's just like even if you have a hellish travel day of
Hmm.
whatever variety, it's just like I'm given the opportunity to fly somewhere to play music with my friends.
I
That's
know.
so great. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not lost on me at all. So I don't
Yeah.
know that it excites me every time. Even, I'm not exactly an early riser. If
Well, if you're playing shows until like 2, 3 in the morning sometimes.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course. My whole life kind of revolves around being on at night, and so we adjust accordingly. If my
Yeah.
life wasn't that way, we'd adjust the opposite way. But that's what we're working with. And but I'm just saying, like, even for the most hellacious early morning departure to the airport, I'm
Mhm.
still like, even if I'm like, oh, but then I'm like, wait, I get to go play a festival right now under my own name with my friends. Like, this is so insane. Like, and I don't know. I feel like I just soak it in like with a straw in the sense of just
Yeah.
like, let's not take this for granted for a second because you can never know
No. Yeah, you're
what
right.
happens to you or whatever. Like, bands blow up and fade away and all
Right.
kinds of shit, which we of course knock on wood that won't happen.
Nope, that won't happen.
But still, like, these opportunities, I'm just, it's just not lost on me, is all. None of it is lost on me that this is special and unique and that I'm the luckiest person on the planet to get to
Mm,
do this and to get to do it in my way.
yeah.
That's most important. And the second that it feels like a job or inauthentic, or well, I can't do an inauthentic thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yep.
Like I just won't, and even
Yep.
if, my whole genre fluidity thing, like, people be like, oh, the song is so poppy, Joyride is so poppy, and I'm just like, yeah, I love pop music. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, the next song will be an 8 minute long instrumental and they'll have to grapple with that. You know what I mean? Be like, well, the last song was pop. Yeah, totally. I don't know what to say. Like,
So that
it's
kind of brings me to a question I wanted to ask you because you talked about like when you decide to put your name on something and put it out there, you are very much putting yourself in a very vulnerable position because you are opening yourself up to judgment. And I'm sure that you've gotten so much positive feedback, but I wonder if any of your fears have come true. And did you get some feedback that was really harsh or that just was triggering for you or really upsetting for you?
absolutely, absolutely, tons of it. And that made me stop reading like Fantasy Tour
Hmm.
and like even Reddit. People like, and it's funny, like one, and I talked to Trey Anastasio about that a lot. He said like he can't read the internet
Hmm.
because if he reads something, like he's like, I'll go fetal. I'll
Yeah.
like, and somebody who sells out Madison Square Garden 13 times in a row over the course of 2 weeks, like you'd think
Right.
that that type of thing wouldn't affect you at that level, but it affects everybody in different
Right.
ways, right? Yeah, it like sometimes I remember somebody sent me like a Reddit thing
Hmm.
basically praising the shit out of me, being like, Karina is the greatest thing since sliced bread, blah, blah, blah. And I like read through the comments and it was basically like, she's amazing, blah, 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 blah. And then a few things that were super mean,
Hmm.
which of
Hmm.
course of course, like, hello, like what? Not everybody can like you and it's all good, whatever. But then I was like, okay, we're done with Reddit. We're not reading it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just not, no, it's par for the course for sure. And
Hmm.
I'm way stronger now than I was 5 years ago in that regard, just because when you're doing stuff and people, you get like, and the best drug on the planet is confidence, in that and like self-esteem or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think, there are definitely healthier ways to get it than through the praise of strangers. But, if you do it enough and enough people tell you that you changed their life tonight and this was the most incredible whatever, you're like, oh my God, like this is not all for naught, you know what I mean? Like this is
Yeah.
this is awesome and whatever. And for every person that tells you that you suck, which of course never happens to your face. It never happens to your face.
Yeah.
It's all
You hide
just,
behind a screen and you do it that way.
of course, which is
Yeah.
totally reasonable and fine. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you gotta learn the hard way sometimes and just be like, okay, I'm not reading this, or I'm not reading that. And that, plenty of people being like, she's overhyped, it's this, it's that, whatever. And I'm like, what? Overhyped? Awesome. That's great. Show me where the overhype, like, I would love to say, like, send me there to the
Yeah.
overhyped department, and I would love to read that. It'd
Be
be great
there. Yeah.
confidence boost for your girl.
Yeah, like because you are, whenever you decide to put something unique out there, when you are putting a piece of your authentic self out there, there's always going to be people that have an opinion. And so I'm so happy that you um choose to do it anyway. Like, knowing that no matter what it is, you're never, ever, ever going to have 100% positive feedback. And that's just the world. And that's fine. People don't have to like you. And in my opinion, like if you piss some people off and have them have a really big reaction, you're doing something really good too.
A hundred
You're
percent,
okay.
100%. And I think a lot of musicians do a better job at that part of it than I do. Or like, I don't know. I have a lot of even Bobby from eighth grade, who has had a lot of airtime in this episode, and
I know. I feel like I know Bobby now.
Bobby's the greatest. Yeah. And then like even, my boyfriend at the time, my boyfriend for 6 years, like all throughout high school and like a little bit of college, Josh was very good at writing something and just being like, yeah, fucking this is it. That's what we did. And a lot of like very polarizing, super heavy metal with crazy whatever, like, but I respect that, and
Yeah.
I feel like I am very much to a fault like a people pleaser, and that sort of thing makes me want to make universally likable music,
Which
which
would
is
be
not
so
a thing that
boring
exists.
also
It
if
does not exist. Yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
also like literally like,
Yeah.
you take the most ubiquitous thing that people like, okay, you're gonna find the same amount of people who don't like it. So, okay.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just not helpful. And yeah, I'm pleased with where we've landed with all of this in the Karina Rykman psyche for sure. Like now we're like, okay, yeah, no, like, yeah. It's just me. It's just like, so if I feel like making this, here it is. It's for public consumption. Take it or don't take it, which is awesome. So
I
feels good.
love that. I love that. And I'm just so excited to see because your music it doesn't fall into like one specific category. It's hard to put into words what it is because you could tell that you have influence from so many different musical genres. And like who would want to be pigeonholed into like I'm a pop, I do pop, that's it. Or like it's just it's so much more interesting.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do you
I
think is like are you projecting into the future at all? Do you have any hopes or dreams for what's next for you?
I don't think of it like that. I think only in the sense of like what we've been talking about. Like, if you don't have expectations, you can't be disappointed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? My hope and dream for the future is that I don't lose this joie de vivre and this love of the work
Yes.
that I have. It's about what I hope is that, it's not like I was talking to somebody was just like, so is the goal that we have a finished album by May? And I'm like, no, the goal is that we make the greatest album that we can possibly make next. And I
Okay.
don't necessarily like, look, like, do I care? I don't want it to come out 5 years from now, God forbid. But like, I want to continue to be in love with the work that I do, with the people that I do it with, and it to not fade away in that way. You know what I mean? That so I don't give a rat's ass about like, it's not about accolades, it's not about how many tickets can I sell, even though like those things are incredible. And like when you see it leveling up, like I have, especially in New York City, like the idea
Mhm.
that I'm headlining Webster Hall and it's almost sold out already is one of those things where you're just like, somebody pinch me. It's a huge deal to
Mhm.
me. Like that's,
Mhm.
did I ever, ever, ever foresee that I could be in a band that would headline Webster Hall, let alone my band? No. So but those things are, again, fleeting. Like it's not about that for me
Hmm.
anymore. Like it's about loving what you do and
Yeah.
continuing to love the work and continuing to just make beautiful things for this earth, and it's just a beautiful thing. So yeah, again, it's it's not like a where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'm like, wow, playing Madison Square Garden. No, I don't feel that way at all. I could be playing, Skippy's Clam Shack down the shore. Um, and if I'm still in love with the work and the people I get to travel and do it with, that'll be the greatest win of all. You know what I mean? It's
Right. I
just,
love what you're saying because it's not about the destination. It's so much more about the journey and being in the present moment and just loving what you're doing and being authentically yourself and sharing space with the community of people that feel good to be around. And that's it. That's the goal. It's not
that's the
about
goal.
like checking the boxes and
No.
although a lot of people do seem to think that that's what it's about.
They do, and they need to, that's what I tell. I had a talk with my other friend's band who was just like kind of, talking about it in more of those ways, and I was like, guys, there's nothing to get. You already have it. You
Yeah.
got
Hmm.
the thing to get is to, like just it's the joy and the love of, the ups and downs, you can never get anything perfect or right or whatever it is. It's not even about that. It's just, it is the journey. It is the journey because what are you doing? You're spending your time making music with this certain group of people and traveling around the country slash world spreading it, right? So like all those hours you're in vans, buses, trains, planes, automobiles,
Hmm.
whatever it is, like it's just like and God bless, thank God we're laughing and loving it and and have like this sort of like this supreme joy and honor of doing it, and I don't know. I feel like the second it becomes anything other than that,
Hmm.
I'll become a hedge funder, obviously. Again, like I need it like a hole in the head if it's not going to be fulfilling to me in that way. You know what I mean? Like I could do absolutely, I got a degree.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
But I don't know. I feel like I'm just lucky to have something that makes me so happy to be alive, and that's this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, your happiness is contagious, and through the music you're creating, it is just like so evident that you are living your purpose, that you are so being authentically yourself in all possible ways, and that just is uplifting for other people. And so when you were sharing earlier that people are like, "Oh yeah, your show changed my life," this and that, like yeah, it is. Like, it's amazing what you do. It's a gift. It's a gift not only that you have that for yourself, but that you're able to spread that joy with other people. And so I thank you sincerely for that.
Oh,
As somebody that just met you. Yeah, God, I think it was 2020 when I first saw you with Marco, and I think. Yeah, I think it was the first show I saw post pandemic. And so it was
wow.
incredibly special, like to be there and to be like, I remember standing right in front of you the entire time being like, Karina.
I love that. I love that.
But then like through over the years, like just going and seeing you and performing and how your career's evolved and how you are just living your life, being your authentic self. And it is naturally spiraling out the way it is supposed to be because you are like just doing what is feeling good to you and what is right to you. And so I'm just, yeah, it's been really cool to watch.
Thanks, dude. I so appreciate that. That means a ton. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank you so much for your time and being on the show. And for one final question that I'd like to ask for you is, if somebody listening right now and is like, huh, like I kind of have a dream of something that I would like to do, but I don't think it's for me, or I'm not good enough, or no, people are going to judge me, so I'm afraid to do it. What would you say to that?
I mean, I would definitely say it's easier said than done, right? But if you really want to try something and you really want to go for something, you have to and it's hard because it's the hardest thing, right? But you have to just kind of shut off all those voices that tell you that you're not good enough and that you're not worthy of something like that or whatever it might be. And just like, you just got to start. And again, I feel like the easiest thing about this for me is that like it feels easy to promote something that you feel so strongly about. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, so if you feel strongly about something, you have to, think to yourself, like, what is this? What is it that I want to go for? And, could I see myself doing unfathomable amounts of work, quote unquote, and putting myself in weird positions and like all, for the sake of doing that. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Because again, like my 2 hours on stage a night make all the rest of the lunacy of my life completely worth it. And it's like, I mean, we might be talking about people who are not, it's not necessarily the arts or not necessarily a field that's as ripe with lunatics or whatever it might be.
There's
But
plenty of lunatics in lots of different corners of the
it's
world.
totally true. Totally true. No, the most important thing is to know yourself, right? To know
Yeah.
yourself. And by the way, like, go for it, but also don't be, if you're like, oh man, like I don't know, like maybe like a more stable and more whatever way of life is the way for me because I love to, I don't know, no, just know yourself and do whatever, ask yourself all the important questions. What is this even worth to you? And what does it mean? Like, and what and why and all those things. And then just double down on whatever you just said. Double down.
Yeah, perfectly said. And at the core of that, know yourself, be authentically you, and yeah, just don't listen to the naysayers also, I think is a huge piece of that as well.
100%. 100%. I think it's so important to, just, you have to know you for you. And also that's the other thing, like, and you're going to get people from all walks of your life who have completely different backgrounds and completely different and judgment and well, little Susie didn't do it that way. And little Jimmy did it this way, and now look at him, and blah blah blah. And you're gonna have to say, listen, fucking little Susie and little Jimmy, that's great for them. I'm me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's I feel like the one of my least favorite things in this world is when people try to stifle other people's desires and ambitions and try to make them into something that they're not.
Agreed.
That breaks my heart. So avoid that at all costs. Whatever that means to you. You know what I mean? Like whether you're trying to be a lawyer or a artist or whatever, like, and you have all these people chirping in your, why are you doing that? That's not going to be, you should
Yeah.
be more like this. You should do a more straightforward path. You should do a less straightforward path. You should be, everybody has something to say always. And fuck them.
Yeah, that's it.
That's, sorry.
Karina Rykman, you
you
Thank
know?
you so much, Karina. It's been a pleasure talking to you with that note.
And on that note, baby, thank you so much. That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop. Don't listen to anybody. Listen to everybody. Just kidding. Don't. Yeah. Awesome, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, that was so much fun. Thank you.